Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Akiona Law Podcast, wherein we talk about anything and everything that intersects with in the areas of family law and divorce. And today I have with me Aubrie De Clerck. She is, okay, so let me tell you about Aubrie, and this is why I'm really excited to have her on today, is that she is a certified coach, certified by the International Coaching Federation, ICF, with her specialty being career coaching. Now, what she does is that she helps people navigate through life's big changes. She also helps people, and big changes is not only just through career, it can be through things like divorce, um, age milestones, health issues, as well as job changes or job layoffs. Now, Aubrie has been doing this for 18 years, and through it, she is and I'm sorry, she is known for being highly inspirational as well as being deeply practical with being able to have conversations that cuts to the core of the matter. She is the owner and founder of Coaching for Clarity. Welcome, Aubrie.
Thanks, Lani. Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you on.
Excited to be here. I'm excited for our conversation. We've talked before and just really enjoyed the flow of what we have conversations about. So looking forward to today.
So Coaching for Clarity. So
hmm
tell me, like, what made you get into this?
Wow, I think that with a lot of times with big life changes, same for me, right? Some of it feels part accident, right? And then part
Uh,
of it feels really aligned and intentional. So, I
mhm.
mean, in that sense, like I was always, I went to school, got a degree in sociology. I've always been interested in people and phases of life,
Okay.
and supporting people. And I thought I was going to go into social work.
Oh,
Yeah, I really thought that's the place I was going to go. And
wow.
I ended up coming out of school and having a corporate career and then working in nonprofit and getting closer and closer to working with people again. But I feel like in some ways I circled back to being of support at really crucial moments of people's lives, which is something that's always been inside, with some detours.
Well, so tell us now. Tell us about I know that when people go through life changes,
hmm
there's identity change that happens with it and a transition. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. So the way I describe it a lot of times is like a mobile over a baby's crib, right? With different
Okay.
parts of our lives. Like let's say,
Okay.
there's work, there's our relationship, right? There's family, there's all sorts of different pieces of our lives. And if you pull on one of those things, many of those things also move, right? So if somebody's going through job loss, that can affect the family and the relationship. It can
Right.
affect our sense of identity and sense of self. Um, so there's a number of things where it can't really be all separated out. So that's one way of thinking of when people are going through these kinds of changes, and like a divorce especially, right? Who they are in life is changing. People aren't. This isn't what they thought they were going to be.
Right.
A lot of people, most people enter into the marriage, me and my own marriage and other people that I work with thinking like, this is it, right? Like the plan is that we're going to be together. We're going to create this life together. And so, um, the fact that your trajectory looks different.
Right.
Who you are in the world is going to be different. Your relationship, if you have children, might change. To your family members might change. Some people need to go to work, some in a different way. Other people have to stay with work that they thought that maybe they were done with. That there's a lot of parts of our lives that change. All geography might have to change. So when people are going through that kind of disruption to their lives and their experience, it can feel like really rough seas, like a rough being in the ocean when it's really choppy.
Yeah, no, that's a really good visual, rough seas. No one likes
Yeah,
being in rough seas. It's
yeah,
uncertain.
totally uncertain. And human beings in general, don't really like things to be uncertain.
Right.
We'd really rather know what's going to happen. But these types of changes in life, it's so much is unknown. And part of the process is to, put that anchor down. So in that moment, it's not the best time sometimes to chart your whole path if the sea's choppy and you can't see very far ahead of you in a storm. So part of this is to like really drop the anchor down and figure out where you are right now, what's
Right.
happening right now. And then when things are a little calmer, then start thinking about what am I looking to? Because then that's when some possibility happens. But you need to have the anchor down for a little bit in order to feel more secure,
Okay.
more connected to oneself to make those kinds of decisions and choices.
So how long, so say for example, if someone is going through a divorce,
Hmm.
how long would you be working with that person? Is there like I guess I'm just trying to figure out, is there a certain timeline, like 3 sessions, 5 sessions? It just depends, I bet.
It depends. And
Yeah.
at the same and at the same time, when people are in pain, the last thing you want to hear on the other end is like, this thing takes time. It's different for everyone, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not super helpful a lot of times. I know that when I'm in
Right.
pain, I really don't want to hear like, well, we don't really know how long it's going to last. So
Yeah.
usually I recommend that people that we work together for 90 days
Oh,
to
okay.
start out because what's interesting to me about the 90-day time frame is that it's enough to know that we have some spaciousness in the time what we're going to talk about. The other thing that tends to happen is people are in spots where things are shifting and changing around them.
Yeah.
And so we want to allow for that to happen without having to say, okay, well, it's going to take 6 months. Oftentimes people come and something's changed already within the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
And so I want to have that space to say, like, okay, where are we going? Right? We're going to figure this out. And it's 90 days at a time is about what people can take in, I think, during those types of times.
So, practically speaking, are people meeting with you every week during those 90 days or okay.
Yeah, for me, it's every
Yeah.
week. I know that some
Okay.
coaches do every 2 weeks, and maybe they go longer, right? So it ends up being the same amount of sessions for 6 months. But for me, that when I'm working with folks at these times during big life change times, having that consistency can be really helpful and important because things are changing a lot. The other thing about that is it gives them flexibility because a lot of times, I'm not sure how your experience, Lani, with this is that things can come up.
Right.
And if they miss a time or we have to change the time, like for me, it's no problem, right? We can change the time, we can reschedule it to later that week or whatever. But if we're on an every 2 week schedule and we miss one time, I mean, I'm only touching base with that person once a month. And that tends to not be enough during a transition time like this.
What is so when you help someone who's going through that transition
Yeah.
of a divorce,
Hmm.
um, is there any certain recurrent themes that you see come up?
Well, I mean, the recurrent emotions, but those may just feel obvious, right? In terms of what people are going through.
Yeah.
But I mean, it can be a variety of things, right? There's a lot of fear, survival fear,
Okay.
especially when working with people around their work lives, right?
Right.
How am I going to support myself? If they have a family, how am I going to support my family? Am I going to get back into the workforce, right? What does it
Mhm.
even look like to do that?
Right.
Sometimes some numbness, confusion, frustration, resistance is a big one. I
Resistance.
don't want this to be the way it is.
Oh, okay.
That's there a lot, which is normal. And that is also welcome in the work that we do because there's um there's also information in the resistance. What about it is so hard, right?
Yeah.
Getting to the core of that. And so those are some of the common feelings that folks have around it. Common themes are, to me, some of the biggest common themes boil down to confidence and connection to themselves. So there's the identity piece.
So can you go more into that?
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm finding with folks that I work with is that in their experience that they might have lost a certain part of themselves. There's
Okay.
all sorts of things in terms of marriage or partnership where we compromise, and I think it's real normal in relationships and friendships and all of those things, right? But there can
Right.
be times when um, people will lose that connection to themselves. Wait a minute, what did I want again? Who am I again? What
Right.
are my goals for just me? And that sense of connection can be, and losing that sense of connection can be really disorienting when trying to figure out what you want next. A lot of people, when they come from that spot, don't know. If you ask straight on, like, what do you want? I don't know. I don't know what I
Yeah.
want right now. And one way of sorting through that is to remember who we are. Now, we are different than who we were before. I mean, if we're going to take it in terms of divorce, right? Before
Right.
being married, during marriage, after marriage. Um, but we're not yet who we're going to be post the transition yet. So I'm working with people in that space, right? Which is like, okay, I
Right.
used to know what this was about for me and who I was and my relationship with the world. I don't have, I'm really off kilter right now. Like, I'm not sure what that is or what I want or who I'm becoming yet. And then there's that spot where people are going into that stage of things are opening up, getting more connected, can see more of what's happening. Maybe some synchronicities start to happen that feel like their new path is opening. And so
Okay.
that's what I mean about being connected to oneself is just in a phase of transformation.
That's a good point to bring up because in a marriage you do tend to lose your own identity because you are, a husband, a wife, a mother or a father, and your own individuality or needs and wants, they kind of get pushed down in service of the family.
Yeah, it happens frequently. And I think that happens whether people are getting divorced or not. There's a lot of folks that get to age 40 or 50, which are, really, when you're talking about age milestones, those are really common
Yeah.
times, right? Like in the age 40s, there can be this sense of individuality and freedom
Hmm.
and uniqueness and expression, right? That's there. That's like, oh, I want that, you know?
Right.
And then a lot of times in their 50s, people are at a place where they don't have regrets, right? Time is limited.
Oh,
What is it that is a real meaning and purpose and value for me? So there's times where even if someone's not necessarily getting a divorce or ending their marriage,
right.
there's struggle around that sense of identity and who I'm becoming. And that's a real common process. It's unique to everyone. And just because it's common doesn't mean it's not painful. But you
Right.
add on a layer of possibly shift in those time frames, or even in someone's 20s. A lot of times people in their late 20s are ready to commit to something. They want to commit to a career, they want to commit to a person, or if it's not working for them, they want to stop it and they want to build who they are becoming as an adult for themselves. And so at those times, those things are naturally happening for people. And then if you add in something like a divorce, that adds another, an earthquake or a ripple or something, right?
Right.
To an already existing experience like you're talking about like, being a parent or having an empty nest situation happen or whatever.
Oh, that's true, right? That's even you could be married and a life transition that you're going through is that here are my spouse and I, we're in our mid 50s, late 50s, and we're going to be empty nesters. What does that transition look like?
Yeah. What do we want for that? Are they
Right.
taking care of their own parents at that time? So maybe there's some sense of feeling like, okay, I've worked really hard and now I'm gonna have this freedom. And then maybe there's an illness in the family and then it's or it can just also be like, wow, wonderful. Right. I don't want to make this feel like this. It's all about terrible things happening in life, but there can be, and that's I think too. I mean, it's things can be bittersweet. Being divorced can be bittersweet, right? In terms of what people find or how new lives begin
Right.
after the divorce is done.
Well, sometimes getting divorced can lead to an awakening.
Yes. Well, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I know that happened for me. felt like it happened for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's and that's something to realize that it again, it doesn't have to be the end. It can be an awakening. Are you able, do you mind sharing like how you felt awakened or to describe that process for yourself?
Sure. I mean, I was the awakening part for me was I saw things more clearly than I had seen things in a long time.
Wow.
Like that felt like the awakening part of it for me was like, oh wow, it's like it's like there maybe had been a fog over the window and then you wipe it clear and
Yeah.
you can see. I didn't love what I was seeing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, an awakening as far as like, oh, rainbows, and you know, music and all those things, but it was like, oh wow. And looking at my part in it, I wrote a blog post on it.
Did you?
I have a Substack called Big Life Changes, and I wrote a post about it about like when coming to that space of the realization of the reality in front of me, I was just like, how did I get here? And then having some answers for that. Like, oh, I can see the patterns here,
Wow.
in my own life, in myself. And then to be in the sense of, I remember somebody told me that when I started my business, they're like, Aubrey, starting a business is the biggest personal growth experience you never asked for. And after 18 years, I'm be like, yeah, and it's still happening. It's a lot to have a business. But marriage is also a growth, and divorce is also a growth like that. And so I feel like, would I rather have not had the awakening in this particular way? Yeah, I would still love to I would love to be in a healthy marriage. And there
Yeah.
was a lot of love between my ex-husband and I. So would I have loved it to not be so painful? Yeah. Am I really happy to be on the other side of that and what my life is about and what I know about myself and how much easier I am in my own skin in terms of that kind of awakening? 100%.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you on that, and to me, doing a midlife awakening sounds so much better than a midlife crisis.
Right. And I think that's, when I have teachers and do a lot of reading, and I think it's that place of it's like it's midlife and it doesn't have to be a crisis,
Yeah,
right? Like it's not
yeah,
automatically required to be a crisis. I think that, depending on how people view different life phases, that it's natural to go through these places, like in the 40s or the 50s, to have these kinds of feelings, right? But we can, whether it becomes a crisis or not, doesn't isn't always optional, but how we handle it is optional, right? I can have these
yeah,
feelings and be going through something and not want this reality to be the way it is. But my response to that's going to be either helpful or unhelpful, I think.
right.
So I'd rather, like you said, I'd rather have my response to it be like painful awakening, but I'm doing it.
Well, through with pain comes growth. Unfortunately.
Right. Well, how is that for you when you're working with people? Because you're working with people in really, tough, painful situations. And you see the other side. Like
Yeah,
you get people through this really hard process, right? All
right.
the time. That's what you're doing is working with people like to where, so what do you tell people about it? Because you're there, I think there's reasons why attorneys are called counselors, right? Like you're part of that process for them. So how do you help people get through it?
I think sometimes it's tough in the sense that a lot of times for us as attorneys, it almost kind of feels like we're triaging, where we're trying to meet that immediate need of I am divorcing my spouse, and what is child support going to be? What is spousal support? What is a parenting plan going to look like? And it's helping people in that really small snapshot of time,
Yeah.
maybe a year or 2 years, trying to help them figure out legally what's this new relationship going to look like. And I've seen growth in the sense that when a client comes to me and the I can tell that, and again, it doesn't matter whether or not you want the divorce. It's still really difficult, especially if there's a lot of heaviness that comes up with it, especially if the
Mm,
relationship was not a good relationship and there's a lot of fighting and there's a certain heaviness that my clients will come to me with. And it's so nice to see at towards the end when things are settled, or I may see them some time after the divorce is finalized, that I can then see that shift in their appearance and in their face,
mm,
the happiness. It's as if a light is turned on inside, when things are resolved. And that's rewarding to see. And just speaking from my own experience about how when I started my divorce proceedings and I moved out of my home September 2024, and here it is 2 years later, still have yet to get my divorce finalized, but we will. Wasn't easy. And even though I was the one that wanted the divorce, man, I tell you, the grief and
mm,
the pain that just
mm.
comes, from a 25-year relationship, and just oh my goodness, just everything changes. And for me, what I was really grieving was the change in my relationship with my kids.
Oh yeah.
And they were older, at the time, and my oldest had started college and the youngest was a junior in high school, so they're older, but that wasn't easy on them.
Right.
And it wasn't easy on them because of the way that myself and my spouse, the way that we showed up, the way that our behaviors were. And that sucked. That sucked. It really just it hurts everybody, and you just gotta go through it.
Yeah.
And I just tried, especially my youngest. He was my oldest was a little bit more insulated since he was at college and he was away, but it was my youngest that was living in the family home with my
Mm,
spouse. And he got to see his father's unfiltered emotions. And that was tough. And I try to tell my youngest son, you're going to have a lot more resiliency.
mm.
And unfortunately, than a lot of people should have your age. So trying to make something, that's a positive spin on it.
Right. And I think that you're talking about and the tough time, right?
Yeah.
That there's another side to it. Doesn't mean that we aren't changed. Doesn't mean we're gonna, think everything was, terrific, right? Or, you know,
Yeah.
it's and at the same time, there's things on the other side of that that we can't maybe necessarily see right now, right? Like you're talking to your son about. Or when you talk about those people that have the lights back in their eyes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's these kinds of life experiences and processes, like they leave us changed. We hope that they gets, folded in, right?
Yeah.
To who we are in a sense of where we get to return to who we are, but also bring in the new parts of who we are based on that situation and then move forward from there.
Exactly. And what you said really kind of resonates in the sense of like my identity, like who am
Mm.
I? Who
Right.
am I now? And there's also too, you mourn the loss of your future
Yeah.
because, we have planned, we're going to be
Yes.
empty nesters and we were going to do all of this and that. And, I planned on spending a lifetime with this person.
Right.
And yeah, sure, there's mourning and grief that comes with that, but also at the same time, and like, who am I? Who am I now? Here I am 2 years later. I don't know if I can really say who am I still now. I'm still trying to figure out what I want. But
Yeah.
I do know that I do feel a lot happier and a lot lighter. And
Mm.
honestly, there's a part of me that wishes I made the decision sooner. So that way, my spouse, because we were not the best versions of ourselves for our kids.
Mm,
It really kind of breaks my heart when I think about how my kids were raised in that environment. And I really wish, looking back now, that I had walked away a lot sooner, which would have allowed me and my spouse to eventually be the best versions of ourselves for our kids.
yeah.
But it's a learning process, right? Hindsight is always 2020.
2020, yep. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I remember for a long time, it was just personality wise, it was just like, when people did, Aubrey, you did the best that you could, right? And when you look back, you can always be like, you know, I wish. And at the same time, it's like we're doing what we know how to do in the moments that we're doing it.
right.
And the idea would be like, just like you're talking about, is like an awakening or so a learning or a changing that happens that when you move forward, you're like, okay, are there things that, things I want to choose differently about in the moment, in the present, in the future? But yeah, that stuff that you're talking about the grief, right? That's like that's all part of that choppy seas part.
Yeah.
And like when you're saying like how long does it take? And from your own personal experience, you're like 2 years and it's still, it's still not like, I know exactly what that is. And there's a book on transitions by William Bridges, and he talks about like there's an ending, there's a neutral zone, and then there's a new
Uh,
beginning, right?
yeah.
And the neutral zone is rarely neutral, doesn't feel neutral. He just means I think that you don't know what's happening,
Mm.
right?
Oh, that makes
Something
sense.
new hasn't started yet. But it can be kind of scary and frustrating, but that's that middle point, right? Which is like, okay, my marriage is ending. I'm not yet past divorce or started my own chapter, however long that
Yeah.
healing takes for people, but it's the neutral zone of kind of like a little bit in the dark, right? Feeling your way around
Right.
about what's happening. And it's as much as I know that for myself in transition, I'd be like, I would want somebody to be like, just tell me what to do. Just be done with it, you
Yeah.
know? But there's all those things I imagine that you hear too, which is like there's the legal process of it, right? And you're guiding people through that and helping them understand that. And then when that process is done, there's another process that's happening. They're getting used to their parenting plan, right? They're
Right.
understanding who they are as co-parents if they're doing that,
Co-parents. Yeah,
right? Their kids are
yeah.
going through milestones, they're graduating, people remarry or whatever, right? Like all of that continues to happen. So there isn't just like you know, a flip of the switch, right? And to be like, it's over, I'm done. There's there's just more unfolding and things that occur.
It takes time. It's a process. Your one was really rough for me. It was rough. It was painful. A lot of, numbness, sadness, grief, mourning, anger.
Yeah,
And year two feels good. It feels acceptance, I guess, neutral.
yeah, yeah,
Neutral. It's like, yep, we're gonna get it done. I mean, it's gonna get done soon.
yeah. But
Uh,
it's a place that's easier to start thinking about what you want from a place that feels more neutral.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
And it's easy to be objective. And I tell you, folks, just because I do this for a living, it did not insulate me from going through my own divorce. And I experienced
right.
the same of emotions and it was a shit show, folks. That's all I can say, right?
Right.
Outside and inside.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. They're like, okay, it's like just because this is what I do with people for work doesn't mean that like we're human beings.
Didn't make my my
You
divorce
know,
easier.
to
Yeah.
have that experience just because we do this, well, it doesn't mean that we aren't human about what happens in
You
our
know
own
what?
lives. But I think that that's important because that's what is brings connection. And
Yeah.
also people I think feel really alone and isolated
It
at these
is.
times, you know?
It
So
is.
the more that it's like we feel like this is what we're going through, as hard as it is normal, lots of people go through it. So that there's a real natural process to this. Um,
Right.
that it can feel less isolating,
And
less
you
just
mentioned
self-judgment.
Right. Because, and so talking about the self-judgment, right? The self-judgment, the beating yourself up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you help people, how they treat themselves during transitions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's somewhat of a cultural piece here in the US where it's like the expectation is that you know what you're supposed to do and you do it and you move on with it, whatever that thing is, right? There's a high
Right.
value in like doing it right, doing it the right way, and it not
Absolutely.
taking very long. And you're
Yes.
off to the next, Instagram worthy, part of your life. And I mean, encouraged by all of these pieces that I see out there about, like it's, lives are messy, but I think there's a sense of self-judgment in the fact that it's a percent can be a sense of self-protection, which would be like, okay, well, if I did these things wrong, then I know how to do it right next time. And then I won't have XYZ happen, or I won't have as much pain, or I can avoid this, that, or the other.
Okay.
And if that's the case, I mean, like if not saying it's bad to be protecting oneself, but there's a lot more that can be there in this sense. Like like you're talking about of, an awakening or a transformation or coming home to oneself or more peacefulness, or neutrality. And
Yeah.
so that all peacefulness, neutrality, all that can be an inside job, right? As well as an expectation of an interaction with the outside world. So being in a sense of like sometimes it's like, okay, well, what if we take blame off of it for a second?
Okay.
Blame off the partner or blame off yourself.
Oh, true.
If we take blame out of the picture, what do
Yeah.
we got? What's here to look at? I'm not saying that you can't go back to blaming anytime, anytime you want, but it's like even if we just carve out some time while we're talking where it's like, okay, if it wasn't about that, what might it be about instead? Or in addition to blame? Those,
And no,
yeah, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
And I mean, and thinking about like, okay, so if the self-judgment isn't going to be able to protect us entirely because life happens, then is there a reason to hang on to it?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if there's a reason to hang on to it that's, important, then hang on to it. So
Okay.
it's not meant to be like trying to lead somebody to a certain place, but be like, yeah, I'd much rather judge myself in this moment consciously than, see what is on the other side of that. Fair enough.
Do you now switching gears, but kind of along the same topic, do you see people treating themselves negatively when they're dealing with job changes or
Oh
job
yeah.
layoffs?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like job changes is such an identity shift, right? Being laid off, hit to the
Yeah.
confidence for some people, right?
Right.
And so be like, oh man, I should
Oh,
have seen this coming. I should have been smarter. I should have been looking sooner. I shouldn't have said this thing to this other person because that didn't look very good politically if they're working in a corporate environment. And I know not
okay.
everybody is. Or I shouldn't have gone into this field to begin with. I should have picked something else. Like there's all places the brain will go to in terms of judgment.
Wow.
And And I'm not saying that when I talk to people, I'm like, okay, I'm not saying that any of that isn't true. You may or may not have had a different experience if you choose something else to do for a living. We would have had a different experience, but we don't know if it would have been better or worse.
Right.
We can't say. So is it, do we want to do something about it now?
Okay.
Because if you want to go through the therapeutic part of the process, like how do my family dynamics get me to this place and all of that, that would be, you know, work with a counselor, with a therapist.
Okay.
Talking from the coaching standpoint, it's like, okay, some of those things might be true, but we have no way of knowing. And that's part of that uncertainty. We're staying with the uncertainty in and of itself can have benefits. It's uncomfortable, but we can say, we don't know.
So when people have a job change or a layoff and they come
Hmm.
to you,
Hmm.
is there like a search and focus like, okay, well let's figure out what's next. What do you want to do next? What
Yeah.
career?
So if they've got
Okay.
the anchor down, right, they're in enough of a place where we can start to talk about what's next or what they want next. We can narrow it in a couple of ways. One is what do they need in their life logistically? How does work need to work for them? And that
Okay.
changes all the time, right? If you're single, if you're partnered, if you're taking care of family members, right? Um, so those logistics, how much do you need to make? Are you looking at benefits, right? All
Oh,
these kinds of nuts and bolts about work,
yeah.
getting clear about that in this moment, which might be different than it was before, and then maybe different in the future. But what's our snapshot right now of how work needs to work? And then who are you as a human being, which comes back to this idea of like, all right, how do you get reconnected to yourself? We're bigger than what we do for a living. We're bigger than our partnerships, in terms of who we are, you know,
Right.
your sense of, self and connectedness. And
Sense of
so
identity.
sense of identity, right? So we can
Yeah.
get that identity here and we know based on the sense of identity and we know based on like logistics of the way work needs to work, because there's a lot of survival stuff around work in our country. So if we can get these two things narrowed in, then we're working in a pool of stuff that we know
Okay.
will most likely work better. Now, some people will be like, they want to know for sure. So they're like, I could go back to what I was doing, but I want to explore and see if there's something else so that they can be confident in their decision, that they've been thorough about it, right? And they've looked at the options. They may end up going and doing the thing they did before, but they want to look at it. Maybe they've always had a dream of doing something else. And then we can find out, is now the time to step into it? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. But the
Okay.
whole idea is for them to be able to get behind it in a way that's like, this is my ownership, my own self-authority around what's right for me. Because so much of what we have in our society and work um is not geared around that, in my opinion.
It's amazing how much our identity, our sense of self is tied up with our jobs, relationships.
Yeah. And in some ways it's wonderful, right? Like if you have, great relationship and or how much you love your kids and
Right.
like if you have a job that works for you, whatever your definition of working for you is, um, that's that can feel great. And there's times when, we're both working with people when it's not feeling so great. It's not always going to feel that
Yeah.
way, but it is at the moment.
So another area that you help people in, so far we've talked about age milestones,
Hmm.
we talked about divorce, we talked about job changes or job layoffs, and another area that you help people with is health.
Yeah.
Can you how do you help people with that?
Yeah. So there's two areas where that happens most. One, if someone has their own health condition, and
Okay.
that's changed their relationship to their identity and their self, and most likely their earning, right? Like how they're
Okay.
supporting themselves. And so, I've had clients with concussions, with cancer, with things
Oh,
that they have
yeah.
experiences where their priorities drastically shift, right?
Okay. That
Based
makes sense.
on possible, they have to, right?
Right.
Or because they're so changed from their physical experience and emotional and mental experience, right? So there's
Right.
that. So like working with people that are on medical leave, that happens quite a bit. People who are on
Okay.
medical leave at work and they're not sure they can go back to work in the sense that they can, but they're like, that environment is terrible. I don't want to go back, right?
I'm sick
So
because of that
I'm
environment.
sick because of that environment. I had to take a leave because of that
Yeah.
environment. So there's that. And then it's like people we love and care about. So whether a loved one is ill or has died, like I work with, folks that are taking care of other people, right? Caregiving
Right.
parents changes things. Um, um, when people lose people, when people die,
Oh, yeah.
it changes the outlook on the world. What's even important anymore, right? That
Okay.
happen pretty frequently. And especially for caregivers, if a lot, whether it's for your partner or if it's a child or a parent, right? It's
Wait a
it
minute. I
really
would think they would see a grief counselor.
Oh, yes, they should see a grief counselor.
Oh, okay.
100%. Yeah. And that's what I mean.
Okay.
Like for me, it's like I'm not a divorce coach in the sense that I'm going to walk somebody through the process of divorce. I'm not a grief counselor, which means I'm not going to like walk somebody specifically through with their grief. I'm not a nutrition coach, right? So I'm not going
Okay.
to like tell people what I think they should eat, you
Okay.
know? But when
Yes.
we talk about an identity change or transformation or something that's going on in relationship to what's happening with their work life, what's happening to their personal life, and where they are in that journey, right?
Okay.
Then there's support for that kind of experience. Now, some people will go see a counselor, a therapist, and that'll be all they
Right.
need. Some people don't want to go see a therapist. Don't want therapy.
No,
They'd
they
rather
don't.
have a coach instead of a therapist, and that's fine too.
You know, it's
Mm.
that I really appreciate you kind of making that differentiation between, and especially in terms of like I'm not here to give you therapy about the divorce, walk you through
Yeah,
that, or even or grief, because for my own self, like I had a therapist that helped me process the feelings, but
yeah,
now that I think about it, it would have been nice to have had a coach after I had processed out some of the
yes,
feelings, of course, because there are a lot of
yes,
feelings to process,
yeah.
than to work with a coach and just in terms of, okay, well, where do I go from here?
Now
Because
what?
yeah, now what? Because I have no clue what I want, where I want to live. Do I want to stay in Washington? Do I want to go back home to Hawaii? Which I actually did go back home to Hawaii for a bit.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know what I want.
right.
Somebody help me, please.
Yes. And that's the coaching part of it, right? Which
Yeah.
is let me sort out what I want and from where I am right now. So yeah, I have like amazing people that I know that are therapists, that are death doulas, that are divorce coaches.
Oh,
We know much of those people in common too,
yeah.
right? Um, and those are the folks that work in that during that time around that specific place, right? And then it's like, okay, now what? What's next? How do I know what's next?
Yeah. What's next? That's
Mhm.
the big part in determining.
Yeah, but if someone's in that major grief place, there's no room for the what's next, right? They're still staying with the sadness and all the other feelings that grief brings.
Right. And just if I had met with a coach without processing those feelings first, I wouldn't have been ready.
No,
It was so raw.
right? Or if you're going through divorce and the main thing you want to do is ask questions like about parenting plans or
Okay.
and divorce coaches can help on the next part of life too, but this is the idea of like, okay, what does it mean? How many, if am I going to do mediation, right? What's happening in this? You know, how do I advocate for myself in the divorce process? Like all of that. Yeah, divorce coach, get you through the thing,
Okay.
right? And then now what? Let's figure that out because you're not who you used to be and you're not who you are going to be yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so that's an important clarification as well too, just in terms of again that divorce coach is that one that helps you to figure out what a parenting plan is going to look like, how to advocate for yourself in your divorce, but then you come in terms of, well, what's my identity now? What do I want to, where's my next chapter? What is my next chapter of life going to look like?
Yeah, and a lot of the way that I interact with the divorce community is around the piece around how work does that, right? Because so in terms of like if there's an area of expertise in there, right? Which is like that identity piece around, okay, now what do I want to do? What do I need to do? What am I becoming in terms of identity, in terms of who I am in the world? A lot of that in our society is about work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there so in terms of I would imagine there's some sort of a common framework that you assist people with, whether it's divorce, age milestones, health, or job changes or layoff. Is it? Is there a certain, again, just formula or framework about like, okay, well, we're going to talk about like what happens, what's going on, um, what else?
Yeah, so the idea would be it's like, okay, we get the anchor down,
Okay.
right, in the stormy seas. So it'd be like, okay, how do you get connected? How do we reframe some perspective about it, right? If that's necessary. Get to a place where there's a more neutral, right,
Okay.
standpoint. And then we say, all right, so from there, we start to look at what's possible or what you want. How do you get
Okay.
reconnected to yourself to understand that, right? There's a process I have called threads that really helps to do that. And then it's this way of
What's the
saying
process called again?
threads,
Oh, threads.
who
Okay.
am I as a person? Often
Okay.
use it for folks with work because it helps a lot with that too. But this idea of like when we're talking about like who am I, who have I been, and then who am I becoming? Got
Okay.
this idea of like, okay, do we have a base of who we are, and then we express it in different ways at different points in our lives. It's like most clear cut when we talk about like, so for me and think about my work, like I sold hosiery at a retail store. And then I worked at Nike in IT. And then I worked at a nonprofit with students with disabilities. And now I'm a coach in private practice. I'm got the same commonalities that go through all of these things. Really different things that I've done for work. But
Wait, I
how I show up in all those things is very
huh.
consistent. And so
Okay.
when I know that I have those things that are very consistent, I'm just looking at the next way I'm going to express myself. So I'm allowing myself the freedom to have an awakening, to transform, to change, to see what's coming that's new, it's possible. What things am I reconnecting to about myself that have always been true about me so that I can move forward into
Oh,
those
that's
spaces,
interesting.
into doing whatever's next, even if you don't know what this thing is, right?
Right.
This is a big question mark. A lot of people might be going through that in terms of like, never had to look for a job in tech, right? They've always been recruited for things. And then there's
I
specific things
see.
that they no longer can do because of the way that the way the industry's transforming. Then now they have to look for a job. They never had to look for a job. And not only that, it's highly competitive. And then the skills that they have aren't necessarily needed in the same way anymore. So what on earth are they going to do?
Yeah. I get
Well,
it.
let's talk about who they are. And then that
Yeah.
may require, retraining or any of those kinds of things, but it can be painful.
You know what? It just popped in my head. I'm like, oh my goodness, I should refer my soon-to-be ex-husband to you because he got laid off from his job of like 15, 16, 17 years. And I'm sure he's going through it's like he's like mid 50s and he was in sales. It's like who's gonna hire him? I'm sure he's experiencing a big identity loss and crisis, but he would probably scoff at me. Be like, no, I'm good. But but he would benefit from you. Wait, and did I hear you say that you used to sell hosiery
Yeah.
at a what? I didn't know there was a store. I'm assuming it was a retail department, and was
Yes.
that the department of selling hosiery?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I know. Yeah, I probably don't even call that anymore. But yeah, I was at when at least I was in Portland, Oregon. I was at Meyer and Frank, which
Okay.
used to Macy's purchased it. So it was long, long, long time ago.
What
Yeah.
was this in the 90s?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was in the 90s. Yeah, and I remember I was like, people were like, I can't believe they put you because they didn't have any control over it. Like I got a job there for the summer, for the holidays.
Okay.
Summer holiday, winter break, all those things, spring break. I'd come back home from
Yeah.
school and I'd work at Meyer and Frank, and you don't get to choose your department.
Oh, oh
They
no.
just put you wherever they need you.
Oh
And
geez.
they put them in hosiery and lingerie. And I was like, you picked the worst person. Like I could care about any of these things. Like just send me some anywhere else, right? And we had a lot of laughs about it, but when I look back at it, there's certain things like they wanted me to sell a certain product because it was on sale. I
Oh,
wanted people to come in and I wanted to talk to them about what they needed.
yeah.
I wanted them to tell me what they were looking for. I wanted to have a conversation with them about it. I wanted to help them find what they were looking for, but also like not, teach, but like explain to them what options they had, right? And why this would be better for
Right.
what they want. And I didn't care what gender, whatever. How can I help you find what you need?
Ah, I see.
So, so then it's like, and then I was like very
Yeah.
big on being like, I'm not going to force anybody to buy something just because you think they should have it. They should be empowered on their own to not only decide what they want for themselves, but to also come back and not necessarily need my help to do it, right? To feel like
Right.
they can make that choice and have enough information. I mean, and it didn't matter to me whether they were excited about it or not. Like they may love hosiery. Good on you. Like it's not up to me whether you should or shouldn't be excited about heights. But I had to find some way to get behind that job. And for me to get
Uh-huh.
behind that job was to do it in my own way. Now, that didn't make me a great salesperson. Like I didn't rack up any records,
Well,
but
it,
it's a very in early formative part, I think I was 16, 17 years old,
oh, that was really young.
about how um my relationship to work or my relationship to how I want to do something that's important. And that's carried through all of my career. Like I do the same
Yeah.
things with people now, just about different topics. And I have much more satisfaction now than doing it in IT, right? Or doing it
Uh-huh.
at a retail store. But if I get blocked and I can't do that, it's problematic. Like if they were to come down and say you're going to get fired if you don't do X, Y, and Z, right? Or no, you don't get to help anybody. Just ring them
Okay.
up. It's very problematic. I would have been so unhappy.
It sounds like you were coaching people from a young age and what hosiery to buy. So that's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah. And I didn't know it then, you know. But
Wow,
yeah,
amazing.
but I had similar kinds of consultative roles at Nike and IT. I mean, it was never the coder, that never worked out well for me. It was always people. It's always people for me.
Yeah. And you still, don't you do a workshop? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I have a workshop called Finding Your Center in Career Uncertainty, and it's all about that spot where you're putting the anchor down.
Okay, so
It's a, it's about coming to a place of saying, okay, this is really uncomfortable, or for people who have been looking for a long time, right? And they're just coming up against blocks, right? Like this just
okay,
isn't working, or people who are like the market, right, is really unpredictable right now. I'm feeling
right.
pretty scared about it. And so it's this idea that how to get into this space where you can deal with the uncertainty of it in a way that feels better. So then you can get to a place of looking at like, okay, well then what's next about that?
And that workshop is called Finding Your Center
Mhm.
in a Career.
Yeah, well, this one I'm doing on the 7th is career uncertainty, but I've
Career
done just
uncertainty.
finding your center uncertainty in general too, which is like
Okay.
for any kind of transition.
So you have a workshop finding your center in career
Hmm.
uncertainty and
Hmm.
finding your center in uncertainty.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do people, if people are interested in that workshop, it's on Zoom
Yeah, it's on Zoom.
for
Yeah,
how long?
it's just an hour long.
Oh, okay. An hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just real easy. Something, I mean, when people are stressed out, just kind of like we were talking about before, like working together for 90 days, like, working together for 3 months is the amount of time you can get your head around. We're on Zoom so much, right? It's just like,
Right.
just do this for an hour. Just
So
get
how
some
do
things
they,
that you can use, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
So so how do people, if they're interested in this workshop, where do they go to?
Yeah, on my website, there's a tab for workshops. And so coachingforclarity.net, and there'll be a workshops tab.
Okay. Coachingforclarity.net
Mm-hmm.
is your website, and they just
Mm-hmm.
look for the tab that says workshops.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have other resources like a newsletter or workbook?
Yeah, I have a newsletter and people can sign up for that. I don't like stuff happens like my business coach is so funny and they're like, you should be writing, writing, writing. And I'm like, it happens when it happens, folks. It's not like if you sign up
Mm.
for it, you're gonna get a newsletter a week. Um,
That would be a
But
lot.
but yeah, I have people do that.
Oh, that's too
It's a
much.
lot. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
But they have but I have two workbooks. One's called Weathering Work Change. And so that's a workbook on my site. And the other one's a Threads workbook that walks people through that process for helping to identify that consistency about who they are.
Okay, so
Yeah.
to find out more information about Aubrey's Zoom workshops, to sign up for her newsletter, or to get her workbooks, Threads, or the workbook Weathering Work Change, then just go to um,
Hmm.
coachingforclarity.net.
Yeah.
And so, is that the best way for people to get a hold of you too, to go to your
Yes.
website?
Yeah, you can go to my website. People can call, text, email me, whatever works best for them is totally fine. You can also go out. I have a 30-minute free consultation, and so people are welcome to schedule that online on the scheduling tab.
All right. So there
Yeah.
you have it, folks. To get a hold of Aubrey, go to coachingforclarity.net and schedule your appointment. She's here to help you with those life changes. And man, I wish I knew of you when I was going through my big life change. I mean, I still am, but I'm coming
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, you're on the
Yeah.
new beginning part.
I'm on the new beginning part.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Aubrey. It was such a
Yeah.
pleasure to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
And for all my listeners out there, thank you for joining. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. And this is Lani Akiona of Akiona Law. Again, the podcast wherein we talk about anything and everything that intersects in the area of family law and divorce. Until next time, be well.
The information in this podcast is general advice only and should not in any respect be relied on as specific legal advice.